Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Becomes the Dragon Emperor of Hell Part 2, Chapter 4, Third Person POV. After dispatching the demon bird, the impostor of the majestic creature Issei had been told stories of when he was but a young lad, he was flying toward the massive hole that formed from his previous attack. Unsurprisingly enough, he didn't feel exhausted whatsoever. Just like the time he finished off his fake version, he used several boosts and yet he doesn't feel a single drop of fatigue. He wonders if it was because of his new dragon side that he had so much stamina, it would make sense, but even if that was a possibility then he should still feel at least something. The effects of hell were obviously at work here, they have been affecting the brown-haired boy ever since he first arrived in this hellish landscape. Slowly attempting to rip away the boy's will to continue onward, which is a poor choice on Hell's part because there was no way that he was gonna give up that easily. He has come too far to give up now, too far to turn back now, and too far to just give up. He wasn't gonna die, he won't allow that. He made a promise to return home, and he intends to keep that promise no matter what. Even if he has to face God and Lucifer, he didn't care. He will not surrender, he will now bow. Never bow. I won't. Never. Bow. No. I won't. Never. Give up. Never. Never. Surrender. No. Accept defeat. No. 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 YBUE for M. No. Issei. Never. Issei's sudden burst was like a thunderous roar, echoing throughout the land like a fighter jet going like a sonic boom. The call altering everything for miles and miles around, all demons either roaring back in response or snarling as they went back what they were doing which was nothing, torturing unfortunate souls or tearing each other apart. Greg was taken aback by his partner's roar, he has heard his fair share of calls in the past, but the one he had just heard was something else, and it concerned him. Being in hell was one thing. Not being able to eat, drink, or sleep was another. But, just randomly letting out a roar like that was on a whole other league, and for no reason as well. Drake needs to keep an eye on his partner or else something will happen to him, and he'll lose control of himself. If he doesn't find a way out he'll destroy all of hell itself. Greg. Partner. Are you alright? Issei remained silent as he continued to fly toward the hole he created, soaring through the air with astonishing velocity. Greg. Partner. Silence. Greg. Partner, this isn't funny. Are you Al? Issei let out a small sigh. Issei. I'm fine, Drake. Just thinking is all. Drake didn't believe the brown-haired boy's words for a single second, there was more to this that he wasn't telling, but the dragon can already guess that he won't tell him, even if he threatened him. Drake. Okay, partner. Just don't worry me like that. Issei chuckled. Issei. No promises, but alright. He looked down at the ruined buildings below him, he sorta felt bad for the unfortunate people who had died in what he could guess was once a great. He figured that it was once a lush place, full of life and beauty that was taken away from them. Issei figures that a lot had died in the fires of hell, burned away into the depths of the underworld. And again, ruination upon ruination, ashes and dust. The Red Dragon Emperor soon felt a chilling feeling as he gazed upon the hole in the wall, no doubt another entrance to an arena of the underworld. What matter of demon shall he face this time? The titan made of solid ice. Another reminder of his past. The combination of both. Or for shits and giggles, has Lucifer himself decided to come and torture the poor boy? Issei didn't know nor did he care for that matter, all that he knew was that this hole in the wall was his only clue to finding the exit out of hell. He wouldn't have been able to breach it if it wasn't something important, a place that must have been sealed up by someone, so no one could pass through to the other side. But Issei shall be the first to pass through, out of the fire and into the inferno as they say, but this time, instead of fire it was ice. An eternity of ice and frozen devastation, another tribulation and yet. Something was off and he could sense it. Issei narrowed his eyes, he could simply fly though this place and locate and exist, but he gets the feeling that it would be more productive if he were to land on the ground. And so, that is what Issei had done. The boy landed on the ground, putting his wings away, as he could feel the cold ice even through his balance breaker. If he could hand the raging heat of the previous zone then something like a little cold was nothing to Issei Hyoudou. As Issei walked, he looked at his surroundings and saw what this pocket of hell truly was, a wasteland. A place full of doomed ships. Ones of sordid histories, horrific deeds and incidents from all times, all places. Forever trapped in a tomb of deadly ice. The brown-haired boy wandered the frozen landscape, seemingly searching for something or rather someone to appear before him. What was taking so long for the next demon to appear? He obviously knew that it was watching him, so why not come out and face him like a rather demon? Was it afraid? Were the demons somehow connected to one another? If so then did it see what he did to the previous one? No, if that was the case then the demonic entities would have abandoned trying to torture the emperor when he demolished his counterpart a couple eons ago. Was it merely waiting? Trying to find the opportunity to strike Issei when he least expected it? Unfortunately for the demon, there was no such thing as being sneaky, because he already knows it's gonna appear, plus he can smell the damn thing too, and boy it had a nasty scent to it. Rotten fish and spoiled mayonnaise, definitely not a combination Issei wants to smell, ever again. Issei was surprised that he even had a sense of smell anymore, he already lost his ability to taste good, since everything he had eaten so far was just ash and nothing more. Issei continued to wait for the demon to reveal, but yet again he received absolutely nothing but utter silence, with the only noise really being the haunting breeze that filled the pocket of hell he was standing in. Greg. Well, this is certainly quiet, Issei snorted in agreement. Issei. It's not meant to be, but it looks like the demon doesn't want to appear. However, Issei wouldn't be alone for much longer as the ground began to shake and crack, gaining the brown-haired boy's attention as he watched as the demon appeared. Issei raised an eyebrow as he saw that the demon took the form of a certain young man with short white hair and red eyes, Fried Selzen, or as Issei prefers to call him, the psycho priest. Now he was confused, why did the demon choose to go as Fried of all people? The priest had nothing to do with ice, also did it think that he would tear him apart? Just because Issei was unable to kill the bastard in the living world doesn't mean that he won't do the same to this one. Issei. I think there is something wrong with this demon, cause it just gave me an easy target. Greg. Yeah, I almost feel bad for it, Issei chuckled. Issei. Keyword, almost. Greg laughed as the demon Fried brought out his gun and fired demon bullets toward Issei, who merely stood where he was and tanked the shots, causing a bust cloud to appear for a brief moment before settling down and revealed Issei, who was uninjured from the attack. The demon growled in annoyance as it took out its copy of the priest's sword and charged forward, swinging the blade down upon the red dragon emperor armor, which bounced off when the two made contact with one another. Both Issei and Drake shook their heads as this was starting to be embarrassing, like the demon should know that none of this will work against him, so why the hell does it keep trying? Issei. Alright, time to end this. Issei reared his fist back and threw a punch, expecting to one-shot the demon only to be greeted with nothing. The boy blinked in surprise as the demon Fried wasn't in front of him anymore. How did the demon do that, Issei? Did it teleport? No, it could have done that because Issei was looking at it when he threw the punch. If teleportation was off the table, then there was only one possible reason for the demon's disappearance, and that was it ran but not away from the fight. Unlike the previous one, which took on the form of a phoenix, a powerful supernatural creature with insane firepower and regeneration ability, the one that he was facing now must have had insane levels of speed. But even so, it made no sense because the demon didn't use it when he attacked him with the sword. Issei isn't sure why it didn't lead with the speed first, nor did he care because this was just another battle in his long journey. Another fight. Another test. Issei started to look around for his enemy, getting small glimpses of a blurred being moving at insane level speed. The boy growled as he looked to his left, the demon appearing on his right side and going to strike Issei's neck. Greg was about to call out to warn his partner of the danger, but to the dragon's shock and awe the brown-haired boy merely caught the black without even looking at the demon. Turning his eye, the demon felt a shiver run down its spine as he could feel Issei glaring at him through his helmet. Issei. Enough games. In a fluid motion, he grasped the demon by its arm and swung it around, propelling it with tremendous force towards the wreckage of the once great ships. As it hurtled through the air, the demon's form smashed through the remnants of the vessels, causing them to shatter into numerous pieces that rained down like confetti. The demon's momentum didn't stop with the ships, however. Its trajectory continued until it collided with the towering wall of ice that loomed in the distance. The impact was deafening, and the sound of the shattering ice echoed throughout the battlefield. Issei watched the spectacle with an expression of satisfaction. He knew he had just dealt a significant blow to the enemy forces. Soon he looked down at his armor, he noticed a faint red glow beginning to emanate from its surface. He knew what that meant, his power was increasing, but there was more to it and he instantly took notice. Issei observed that the intense red glow emanating from his body was not just a visual spectacle, but it also generated an intense heat that was melting the icy terrain around him. The pocket of hell he was in was starting to transform from a frozen wasteland to a slushy, molten mess. This realization left him perplexed, and he couldn't help but wonder how much heat he was capable of generating. The thought of his temperature exceeding that of 10 suns combined into one was daunting, yet exhilarating. Despite his lack of answers, Issei couldn't ignore the thrill of feeling like a force to be reckoned with, capable of unleashing a power that could potentially reshape the very landscape around him. With a small smirk growing on his face from under his helmet, Issei took a step forward, slowly but deliberately approaching the demonic form of Fried. Each step he took began to melt the ice beneath his feet, turning it to water which started evaporating into hot steam. As he closed the distance between them, Issei could feel the energy coursing through his veins. He was ready for whatever the demon had in store for him. With a fierce determination in his heart, Issei prepared to engage in battle once more. But the slow and ominous rise, the demon Fried began to emerge from the rubble and grime, growing from the pain it had just endured. As it shook off the debris from his bosi, a low growl rumbled from deep within him, a warning to anyone who dared to approach him. But then, the demon looked and saw the complete unexpected as Issei was approaching freed with an intense heat radiating from his body. And as he got closer, the heat grew stronger and the flames roared to life, engulfing the entire area in a blazing inferno. The demon was caught off guard, his eyes widening in shock as he watched Issei's approach. But then, something even more incredible happened. Issei let out a mighty roar, a deafening sound that shook the very foundations of the wasteland. The roar was so loud and powerful that it extinguished the flames on all the old ships, leaving the area shrouded in a temporary silence. But it was only for a moment, because as Issei's heat began to intensify once again, the ships were set ablaze once more, creating a stunning display of light and heat. As Issei stood before Freed, his body radiating with an otherworldly power, the demon took a step back, unsure of what to do next. The heat and intensity coming from the boy was unlike anything he had ever seen before, and he knew that he was in for a fight unlike any other. Issei. Come on, demon, show me what you can do. The demonic being stared at the Red Dragon Emperor, its eyes full of mixed emotions like fear and hatred. It was terrified of the boy's power and yet, how dare he make fun of him like this? He was nothing more than a mortal, while the demon was legit a demon. Issei heard a noise as he watched as ice began to slowly cover the demon's form, increasing in size and doing nothing for a few seconds before it burst, and a new and rather interesting form took its place. Issei stood where he was and tilted his head as demon had transformed into a towering ice giant, its icy armor glistening in the sunlight. The demon's new form was truly a sight to behold, with every movement sending shards of ice flying in all directions. Its massive ice blade gleamed menacingly, ready to strike down anyone who dared to challenge it. Issei could feel the raw power emanating from the demon, it was still nowhere near his level or power, but still he couldn't help but marvel at the sheer size and strength of the ice giant, wondering how anyone normal could stand up to such a formidable opponent. Issei raised an eyebrow behind his helmet. Issei. This thing reminds me of a boss from Dark Souls. Greg. Isn't that the game you told me about? Issei. Yep, all that's missing is the loud but very nice music. The ice demon growled at the Red Dragon Emperor, dragging its massive blade across the ground. Issei noticed that the demon's weapon didn't seem to be affected by the immense heat coming off him. This was bad, because it would have been hilarious if it did that Dragon Ball transformation only for its weapon to melt. But he wasn't really worried because so far no demon has laid a scratch on him since he became a full dragon. The icy beast swung its massive blade at Issei, who easily dodged the attack. It tried again, but not only did Issei dodge the attack, the demon got its own weapon stuck in the thick ice. Issei laughed a little as he shook his head, having a big weapon was good for crowd control, but they were basically shit against someone who could actually dodge. He would know because he had experienced the same thing when he was younger, it was not a good time. Issei threw a punch at the demon's leg due to the major height difference between the two, and the punch was so powerful it broke the demon's bone, causing it to let out a roar of pain. However, Issei wasn't done with it yet with the demon, because the brown-haired boy then elbowed the icy creature's arm, shattering its bones in the process. This caused the demon to let out a roar of pain. Issei. These demons are so pathetic. Greg. Yeah, gotta agree with you on that, partner. Suddenly, a wicked idea popped into his head and he felt a sinister grin spread across his face. Without hesitation, he lunged forward and grabbed onto the beast's bladed arm, causing the creature to recoil in horror and terror. The ice demon's expression seemed to convey that it knew exactly what Issei was planning, and it cowered before him, staring up at the boy with a mixture of dread and anticipation. Issei's grin only widened as he surveyed the creature's fear, relishing the power he held over it. With a determined look in his eye, Issei then proceeded to rip the ice demon's arm completely off, tearing it from the creature's body with a sickening crunch. Despite the fact that the demon was made of ice, it writhed in pain and agony, thrashing about wildly as it struggled to deal with the excruciating sensation of having one of its limbs torn away. Issei stood triumphantly over the writhing beast, savoring his victory and reveling in the rush of power that coursed through his veins. Issei. Open wide. He lunged forward with a primal growl, his movements quick and precise. The ice demon's eyes widened in horror as Issei impaled the creature's own weapon through its gaping mouth, the razor-sharp blade slicing through the frozen flesh, as if it were butter. The demon thrashed about wildly, shrieking in agony as it struggled to dislodge the weapon from its skull, but Issei held it firmly in place, his grip unyielding. With a final, wrenching twist, Issei pulled the blade free from the ice demon's head, sending the creature collapsing to the ground in a lifeless heap. Issei stood over the fallen beast as he surveyed his handiwork, a sense of satisfaction and triumph coursing through his veins. He had emerged victorious in this battle, and he would not soon forget the rush of adrenaline that had fueled his victory. Issei. Another one down. As Issei gingerly stepped across the icy terrain, he felt a sudden tremor beneath his feet. Suddenly, the ground began to shake and rumble, causing Issei to lose his balance and fall to the ground. As he struggled to regain his footing, he watched in awe as the ice around him began to shatter and break apart, revealing a churning, violent current beneath. Without warning, Issei was swept up in the torrent of water and ice, hurtling through the icy landscape and into another realm of hell. As he tumbled through the air, he caught glimpses of his surroundings, a dark foreboding arena, filled with dark thunder clouds. Issei knew that he was in for another grueling challenge, but he steeled himself for what lay ahead. With a fierce determination in his heart, he prepared to face whatever horrors awaited him in this new realm, ready to prove himself once again as a warrior of unmatched skill and courage. Chapter 5 Third-person POV Issei. What the hell? What was this? This place? This new realm that Issei has found himself in? It was different than the previous 2 pockets he wandered through, and he wasn't just saying that because of this new location's appearance. He wasn't really sure if being on a place such as this was either a good or a bad thing really. Hell is known to play tricks on people, mess with their minds, and make them lose their sanity before taking their souls. Maybe this was it, maybe this was the result of Issei losing his mind. Maybe after so many eons in hell, he has finally lost his noggin. Issei. Dreg, am I going crazy? Dreg, no partner. You're not going crazy, I'm seeing this too. Issei. Ah, good. I thought I was the only one. So far, the lower depths of hell have been much different from the ones above. Sure, Issei never really got the chance to explore the upper level because he was on a mission at a time, but he can tell from the small glimpses he got that the lower levels were abominable. The first was a ruined nation set in the middle of a raging inferno, a barren landscape which was under the protection of a demonized version of a majestic creature. He did feel the scorching heat, but it was no different than when he first arrived in the lower depths of hell. It was hot, that was all that Issei had to say. Well sure he was affected by the heat, causing him to sweat to the point he looked like he actually jumped into a pool or ocean. He doesn't feel anything now, maybe it was due to his balance breaker or the fact that he was now a full-blooded dragon. He wasn't sure, nor did he want to know because the less he knows the better. The previous pocket of hell was basically Antarctica, but on nightmare fuel, a small part of him wanted to know what the ships were supposed to represent. Maybe being frozen in an eternal trap for the rest of existence. Maybe something about the Titanic that sank all those years ago. Who knows, but Issei knew that the one he currently was in was different because it was the deluge, the eternal ocean. As Issei fell out of the sky, he quickly sprouted his wings and began to soar over the raging waves. The brown-haired boy, for the first time being in hell for a while, now was surprised to actually see water. The mere thought of water actually being in hell sounded ridiculous, whether it was in one's mind or out loud. That was the same as saying as you could use a water bucket in the Nether on Minecraft, it didn't make sense at all. Although, it has been a very long time since he had a chance to take a drink, this could be his chance to actually see if he could take care of his dry throat, because it was basically a desert and his tongue was sandpaper. And again, if eating cooked demok meat didn't fix his hunger then he doesn't think drinking the water below him would help either. Issei let out a small sigh of annoyance. Issei. Great. As Issei flew through the air, lightning and thunder roared as he looked at what was clearly a storm happening all around him. The storm seemed to have stretched for miles and miles, cause Issei couldn't see anything but dark clouds and lightning. This ticked him off a little because he can already guess what's gonna happen, another demon was gonna appear out of nowhere and try to take him on. While he didn't feel like fighting anything, despite the fact he has been doing that ever since he got to hell, he wonders what form will it take on this time. The demon phoenix was easily meant to be Riser, the ice giant was freed, but who will be chosen for water? Issei didn't have a lot of enemies, so there were only a few that came to his mind. Onisik, Middlet, Halwarner, Rainer. Suddenly, Issei grabbed his head as he felt it throbbing in pain, like there was some sort of explosion happening inside of his mind. Greg. Partner, what was happening? Why was he feeling like this? He wasn't injured from his previous battle, this was something else entirely. Something within him that he has not felt for a very long time now, a feeling, an emotion that struck him like an absolute truck the first time. It was like his whole body was begging no screaming at him to never say that name again, never utter her name no matter what. A phantom pain, digging and clawing at his mind slowly and yet so deadly that his entire body felt like it was being cut by a razor blade. Had her betrayal really given him such PTSD? Was he still afraid of her despite the fact she was gone? Ever since her death, Issei has always felt that she wasn't truly gone, and he wasn't saying that to remember her for all the good times they had. No, what she did was unacceptable and it broke his heart into millions of pieces. If he could, he would forget all about her entirely, but why can H know? The better question is why wouldn't he forget her? He can still hear it. Would you die for me? He can still hear the question she asked of him on their first date. Would you die for me? The haunting whispers, a mixture of a siren seductive song and a banshee ghostly wail echoing through his ear. Would you die for me? He remembers how fast his heart beated, every fiber of his being telling him to get away from her as quickly as possible. but the tendrils of fear wrapping around his legs, holding him in place. Would you die for me? Would you die for me? That smile, that sinister smile she gave him as he looked into her cold eyes, murderous intent gazing into his soul like a predator looking at prey. Would you die for me? He won't forget that experience, he shall never forget what had happened that day. The day he felt like king of the world only to come crashing down in a disaster that shall haunt him for the remaining of his days, a betrayal that shall make many laugh at how foolish he was. Would you die for me? Isseihyoudou Issei gritted his teeth as this repeated throughout his head, causing the eyes of the balance breaker to quickly flicker from green to a crimson red like a snapping finger. Drake knew something was wrong as he was trying his best to reach Issei, trying to calm him down before he does something that may end up with his death. Drake. Issei. Huh. Issei quickly looked around before he realized that it was Drake. He was so caught up in the moment that he forgot what was happening around him. The brown-haired boy began panting a little as he stopped flying and merely hover in the air above the raging sea below him, but he didn't care about it right now. Drake. You okay, partner? Issei. Why yeah, I'm alright. Drake. Partner. Drake didn't need to look into his partner's mind to know something was up. Strangely enough, he was trying to see what was wrong with him, and yet he couldn't find anything at all which concerned him, because that meant that the two of them weren't the only ones in hell together. But who or what could be with them? Drake hasn't sensed anything, though it wouldn't be the first time he didn't pick anything up. Being in hell was starting to take effect on him as well, whether it was good or bad he wasn't sure. But he was changing, just like his partner, except the Welsh dragon didn't need things like food nor water because he didn't have a body. Also anytime he sleeps is cause he is either waiting for a strong host or he wants to troll them. Drake. Partner, you're not alright. That's the second time you have acted out, what's going on with you? Issei remained silent, he didn't want to tell the Welsh dragon about his problem. It wasn't anything important, it was nothing more than a tiny issue that he'll soon get over with. Eventually. Issei. I'm fine, Drake. I just got a little distracted is all, nothing more. Drake. Bullshit, you literally gripped your head in pain. What's hap? Before Drake could finish his sentence, both he and Issei immediately sensed something coming toward them both and turned their heads to see a dark shadow under the raging waves below them. It wasn't massive or anything, but that could be just a trick being played on their eyes. Issei narrowed his eyes as he prepared himself for whoever or whatever was gonna come out of the water. Once again a part of him wondered what villain the demon will decide to take the form of. Almost like it was reading his mind, something launched out of the water and into the air. This allowed Issei to see that the demon decided to take the form of a middle-aged looking man with short black hair and dark blue eye, wearing a pale grey trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, a pair of black gloves, and a black fedora. Issei almost deadpanned, the last demon turning into Freed was something, but this one chose don't seek. Okay, were the demons stupid or something because the one that chose Riser was the only one that picked a person who actually belonged to that element. Issei. These demons aren't that smart. Drake. No, they are not partner. The demon Seek heard this, and it wasn't happy with the Red Dragon Emperor's words. It held out its hands as it summoned two spears that resembled light spears, but they were made of demonic energy. When Issei saw the spears, his eyes slightly widened as the appearance reminded him of the one that she used. The pain, the burning, the agony he experienced. Issei immediately shook his head, he can't be thinking of stuff like that when he was in the middle of a battle. The demon smirked as it was about to charge in and attack Issei, but, Issei. Dragon shot. Issei had quickly summoned a dragon shot and punched it at the demon, striking it and sending it back a good couple of feet as it dropped the demon spears it had made. The demon growled in pain as it was covered in scrapes and bruises, some of its quote-unquote clothes were now torn, and it lost its hat. Issei chuckled, what did the demon thought this was? A Dragon Ball episode? Nah, there is none of that powering up crap. Issei is gonna go full on Eren Yeager of that bastard, makes him wonder why no other anime do it. The demon Seek glared at Issei, who merely let out a loud roar and in perfect time too because a flash of lightning appeared behind him. The demon flinched, surprisingly not because of Issei's roar, but cause of the lightning which Issei managed to catch a glimpse of, but it confused him. Was it afraid? Afraid of the lightning? The demon afraid? That was something that he never thought he would see, but why would it be afraid? If it was then staying at a place like this where it appeared that thunder and lightning was happening 24/7 was kinda dumb on the demon's part. Unless, it wasn't actually afraid of the lightning and nor frightened about something else. Issei didn't think much about it as it looked at the demon, despite wearing a helmet it could tell that Issei had a look which said, you wanna die on it. Suddenly, the strangest thing happened which caused Issei to blink in surprise, the demon Seek turned and began to fly away very quickly. This didn't feel right to Issei cause the only thing that can scare away a demon or a devil is holy weapons energy or a stronger demon. Issei. Drake, I don't think our fight is over yet. Drake. I gotta agree with you on they, partner. But who or what is next? Issei. I'm not sure, but we be. Greg. Incoming. At that moment, Issei was struck by a mighty force. This sent the brown-haired boy flying back for a great distance and dazing him a little. The Red Dragon Emperor managed to regain focus and stabilized himself before he fell into the raging sea below. Who knows what demonic creatures lurked in the depths. Issei looked to see what had struck him, and he saw his attacker. It was a gigantic demon that dwarfed the other two the boy had faced. This demon also appeared to be a mix of animalistic and humanoid. The lower part of the demonic creature was that of a four-legged animal, while the upper half of it almost reminded Issei of a human. Greg. Partner, this demon isn't like the other two you faced. I can sense its power, and it's easily on par or stronger with even the strongest of Dragon Kings. The Dragon King, a title given to a dragon of great stature. Issei at first thought they obtained such titles because of nobility or something, but that wasn't the case. Well, maybe not for all of them. Anyways, the Dragon Kings were nowhere near as powerful as a heavenly dragon or they mysterious dragon gods that Drake rarely tells him about, but that didn't mean they were weak because Drake told Issei that if he met one as he was eons ago, it would basically be like him fighting Riser as a normal human. The Welsh dragon has also told him that he once fought a dragon king with a strange name, starting with a G or a J, but they both managed to end their match in a draw, which was rare for such a thing. But, was Issei worried? Was he nervous or even trembling at the idea of facing a demon on par with such a strong dragon? It would be the toughest opponent he has ever faced, easily 10 times stronger than Riser Phoenix. He would have to be a little nervous, right? No, he wasn't. Issei. Don't worry, Drake. I'll make this quick and painful for the bastard. The demon roared as it unleashed a barrage of energy bolts at the brown-haired boy. The Red Dragon Emperor managed to dodge the attacks, moving very quickly, but there were some close calls, but then again, no demon has so far ever harmed him. Issei. Drake. On it. The gems on the balance breaker began to glow, gaining the demon's attention. Boost. The demon could sense the rising power, not wanting to die like its brethren did before it fired another energy blast directly toward Issei. Unfortunately for the boy, he didn't have time to dodge the attack, but he was able to block it and come out with no harm thanks to his balance breaker armor. However, the force from the attack sends Issei hurtling towards a whirlpool that had formed. Issei didn't have time to try and fly away from the whirlpool as he was sucked in, although he didn't kill the demon. He did find his way out from the elemental hell to whatever lies in wait for the brown-haired boy. Fresh levels of torment. The darker eternity. The way out. He didn't know, but after experiencing so much so far he didn't care what he had to face anymore. Chapter 6. Third-person POV. Heaven. Heaven is a fascinating concept that transcends cultural and religious boundaries. It is believed to be a celestial realm where the souls of the departed, saints, and angels reside. It is also believed to be the abode of God, the creator of the universe. The idea of heaven has been central to many world religions, including Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Heaven often described as a highest place, the holiest place, a paradise, in contrast to hell or the underworld. While heaven is described as the highest place, hell is described to be the low places. These two places represent things, good and evil, light and darkness, peace and chaos, order and disorder, and life and death. Heaven and hell have been in a countless struggle with each other ever since the beginning, both sides trying to destroy each other, cause they have their own plans for the world. The story of heaven and hell is not just a tale of two opposing forces, but it is also a story of power and struggle. This is main reason why God doesn't want to fight cause he only wants peace, while his former son on the other hand does not want that. Lucifer was once known as the strongest, most beautiful, and well respected among the angels that served God. The mere mention of his name would leave many speechless, his mere presence leaving all in awe. He along with his siblings were known throughout heaven as the seraphim or rather the archangels. The archangels. The strongest, greatest, and most feared forces in all of heaven. Neither demon nor regular angel can be equal to them. Their very arrival can cause demons and monsters to flee in terror, their arrival was in guarantee victory. But, Lucifer soon rebelled against his father, cast out from the heavens, and became the king of the darkness below, and his fall from grace marked the beginning of an eternal conflict. God wasn't saddened by this loss, he cared only for peace within the universe, and knew that it was the right thing to do. If Lucifer wants to go against him, then God won't hesitate to end his own son's existence. They battled and battled against one another for centuries, but unable to gain the edge against the other to claim victory. So they waited, both God and Lucifer waited for countless centuries for something or rather someone to appear. They waited for anything that could help turn the tide of the battle in their favor. However, what they don't know is that their weapon is not what they expect. It is not someone who is aligned with either heaven or hell. It is someone who has their own agenda and who is willing to use the power of both realms to achieve their goals. This new player in the game will upset the balance of power and threaten the existence of both heaven and hell. The struggle between good and evil is a timeless theme that has fascinated people for centuries. The idea of heaven and hell is a powerful reminder of the eternal battle between these two opposing forces. But as we delve deeper into this story, we realize that it is not just a simple tale of good versus evil. It is a complex and nuanced story of power, struggle, and the quest for ultimate control. Issei, Greg. Issei, wake up. Issei's eyes shot open as he slowly laid up, placing a hand on his head and trying to calm down the ringing noises that wad in his ears. What the hell happened? The last thing he can recall is falling into a whirlpool, and then nothing, everything went dark after that. Did he pass out? Did he hit his head on something? No, that couldn't be it because he still had the balance breaker armor on, and last time he checked he had to be conscious to keep it on. Greg couldn't have done anything, the dragon was able to repair the armor, but keep him locked in or out of it was out of the question. Maybe it's because Issei has donned the armor for so long, it has been a few eons since his battle with his fake. Greg. About time you woke up, I was starting to get worried. Issei let out a small sigh. Issei. Sorry for worrying you, Greg. I was. Issei slowly looked up, not really sure what to say because he wasn't dreaming, because to do that he would need to sleep. Last time he checked, Issei couldn't do that because his body refused until he returned home back to those that he loved. Greg. Partner. Issei. Sorry, I spaced out for a moment. Issei gradually straightened himself up, his mind still foggy from the impact. As he regained his bearings, he suddenly realized that he was no longer in the same location where he had been before. The Red Dragon Emperor found himself standing in a vast and open grassy field, surrounded by an abundance of vibrant flowers of various colors and sizes. The sight was both mesmerizing and bewildering to the brown-haired boy, who was momentarily taken aback by the sudden change in scenery as he wondered how he had ended up here. The gentle rustling of the grass and the sweet fragrance of the flowers filled the air, creating a serene and peaceful atmosphere. Despite feeling confused and disoriented, Issei couldn't help but admire the beauty of his surroundings. Issei. Dreg. Why are we in a field? Greg. I'm not sure, partner. Issei was so confused, how could he go from an all-water landscape to a lush green field? That made absolutely no sense to him, plus when did hell start to care about grass and flowers? Issei. Dreg, where the buck are we? Greg was just as confused or even more than Issei was, he had been around for a long time and he has never seen a place like this before. It felt familiar to him, but that wasn't much to work with because tons of places feel familiar to the dragon. Although, his senses were telling him to be weary of this place and he was gonna listen to those instincts without hesitation because if he doesn't then it may be the death of both him and Issei. Greg. I'm not sure, partner. This place feels familiar though. This gained Issei's attention as he looked at his arm. Issei. Like you've been here before. Greg. I honestly couldn't yell you, but what I do know is that you must be careful of this plow. You do not need to be afraid anymore. As Issei turned, his attention was captured by an ethereal figure that stood before him, causing him to perk up in surprise. It was an angel, or at least that's what he thought it was. The creature appeared to be a young woman in her 20s, but her features were beyond human. Her skin looked smooth and flawless, as if it had never been touched by the harshness of the world. Issei couldn't help but be captivated by her otherworldly beauty. Her feathered wings were a stark white and they seemed to shimmer in the light. Her hair was also white and it flowed down her back like a cascade of snow. Her golden eyes seemed to be looking right through him, almost as if she could see into his soul. Every inch of her seemed to radiate an aura of divinity and grace, leaving Issei in awe. It was as if she wasn't real, but a dream come to life. Issei. Dreg, please tell me you are seeing this. Greg. I am, partner. I'm seeing it as well. The angel gave the boy a gentle smile, the Red Dragon Emperor was straight up confused right now. How the buck was an angel in hell? He thought they had to be fallen to be allowed in hell, but the one in front of him didn't seem to show any signs of being a fallen. Not even her aura was giving her away, she was pure, untouched by any sort of sin. Though, this only filled the boy with even more questions, but he eventually realized something. Issei. Wait, she is an angel. Does that I'm in heaven? Greg. It may be possible, partner. Issei. But if that's the case, then I can fly. Before Issei could finish, he noticed the angel looking at something which gained his attention, as his gaze soon moved to the side only for his eyes to widen. Standing right before him was an enormous structure that resembled a peak mountain, but something was off about it. It had eyes and wings growing all throughout its mass, kinda creeping the boy out because it looked like something from a horror movie. Greg was in the same position as Issei, the Welsh dragon had never seen anything like it and he had visited heaven once or twice before he was sealed away. The brown-haired boy turned to the angel. Issei. What is that? The angel turned to Issei and smiled. Angel? That, Issei Hyoudou is the father. Issei. The father. His eyes widened once again as he turned to the massive mountain. If he understood the angel's words correctly then the monstrosity before him was none other than God. God as in the ruler of heaven, the creator of the universe and father of all creation. The omnipotent being who could do whatever he desired, the leader of the angel faction and the one who fought in the Great War all those years ago. Issei. That's God. Angel? Yes, it's him. Issei. But I thought he was some old man, not this mountain of flesh and wings. The angel only looked at the boy in silence before letting out a giggle which Issei had to admit was a little cute. If he was his old perverted self, then he would no doubt be interested in the angel girl, if that was even possible, since angels don't want to fall and become fallen angels. Angel? The father has many forms, Issei Hyoudou. This one is no exception, and he chose this form for a good reason too. Issei. And what may that reason be? He noticed the angel's expression grew to one of seriousness yet also concern as well. Angel? The father is using nearly all of his power keeping Trihexa sealed away. Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei. Who is Dreg? Trihexa, you have got to be kidding me, that thing is still alive. Issei gritted his teeth a little. Did Dreg have to scream in his ears? He already had a splitting headache from the crash landing, he didn't need to have another because of his partner's screaming. But he could hear the concern in the Welsh dragon's voice. Whoever this Trihexa is must be a very big deal if Dreg of all people was worried. Issei. Who or what is Trihexa? Dreg let out a small sigh. He told Issei a lot of things, but he never once talked about Trihexa because he refused to believe that monster was still alive. But thanks to the angel's explanation, looks like Dreg's worst fear has come true. Dreg. Trihexa is a very dangerous creature, partner. Issei. How dangerous are we talking? Angel. Trihexa, or rather Beast 666, is a legendary creature, known as the Emperor of the Apocalypse, and is stated to be on par with God, Lucifer, Great Red, and Office. Issei's eyes widened when he heard this. There was actually a creature on par with God and Lucifer. He didn't think that would be possible. Sure, he had the power to kill gods, but that wasn't his own power, it was Dreg's. But to think that there is actually some being who can face off against omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient being such as God was crazy to think about. How the hell was it even able to fight God? It was God, with a mere snap of his fingers he could erase it from existence. Issei. How the hell is this Trihexa able to fight God? He's omnipotent. The angel let out a small sigh. Angel. When Trihexa came into the world, it had a terrifying regeneration ability which allowed it to heal from any form of injury instantaneously. Issei. Still, God could just snap it out of existence. Angel. I'm afraid not. Trihexa possesses some sort of ability which doesn't bind it to the laws of the universe. God tried numerous times to make it tied to the laws of the universe, but even with his infinite power, he was unable to do it. Issei fell silent, processing the information that he was just given. So, God has been making sure that this monster stays locked up, a monster that is immune to an omnipotent being such as God. This wasn't a good thing. Issei needed to get back home and warn Riaz and the others about this. If Trihexa somehow gets free, then they needed to prepare, they needed to be ready for its awakening. After all, their lives along with the entire universe was at stake here, and Issei would be damned if he allowed that monster to harm anyone that he cared about. Issei. This isn't good. Dreg. Not it isn't, partner. We better get out of here and warn Gremory about this. Issei nodded his head as he looked at the angel. Issei. Thank you for the information, but do you know how to get back? Issei perked up. Did he hear that correctly? He could have sworn he heard another voice. But it was so faint that he couldn't make out what it said to him. There it was again. Issei began checking his surroundings to find where the source of the voice was coming from, but he didn't see anyone and all the other angels were surrounding God. Issei. What the hell is that voice? Dreg. I don't know, partner, I don't like it. Dreg could hear it as well, but he didn't understand what it was trying to say either. He knew that his partner hasn't gone insane yet because that would have happened eons ago, so he can rule that out of the list. Issei. What is that voice? Angel. Oh, you can hear it. Issei. Kinda, it's more like a whisper. This caused the angel to let out a small giggle as she grabbed Issei's hand. Surprisingly, he could feel how soft and warm her palm was, despite wearing his armor. Angel. Let me help you here. And so, she began to walk toward the giant mountain while taking Issei along with her. Both the brown-haired boy and Dreg were not liking this, especially because they were heading to the most hideous thing either of them have ever seen in their entire lives. As they approached, Issei saw all of the other angels and wondered something. Where are the archangels? The stories of heaven say that the archangels are never far from God unless they are being sent to a battle. Suddenly, the eyes shot open and created a small gust of wind that pushed Issei back slightly as the eyes then locked their gaze onto the armored boy. Submit, serve peace. Submit, serve peace. Submit, serve peace. Issei gritted his teeth slightly as his eardrums nearly burst from the booming voice of God. Did he have to be so damn loud? Like seriously, he already had a splitting headache and he doesn't want any more. Issei. So the voice was from him. The angel smiled. Angel. Yes, the father wants you to serve peace, to keep the universe safe from all manner of harm. Issei. You mean submit. The angel nodded her head as Issei fell silent and looked up at the massive structure before him, narrowing his eyes behind the helmet while clenching his hand into a fist. God may be a powerful being, probably 10 if not trillions of times stronger than Issei, but he made one fatal mistake. Submit. You don't order the Red Dragon Emperor around, especially since he is trying to return back home. Asking for such a thing is the same as offering to give up your life, so God was like all those idiots he thought he could make Issei do something. Issei. This bastard. The brown-haired boy let out a small chuckle of amusement. Issei. Submit. Now annoyed, Issei grabbed the neck of the nearest angel, which lucky enough wasn't the nice one who gave him all the information. Although, she along with the other angels were shocked by what Issei was doing as he took his frustration out of the angel by preventing it from breathing. Female angel. What are you doing? Issei. His armored head rotated at a tortuously slow pace, causing the female angel to recoil and take a step back in apprehension. Sweat began to trickle down her forehead as she braced herself for what was to come. Despite the Welsh dragon's armor enveloping his body, she could feel the intensity of his piercing gaze. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced before. His gaze was filled with an unbridled rage and fury that seemed to consume everything in its path. It was as if she was staring into the fiery depths of hell, only 10 times worse than anything she could have ever imagined. It was the culmination of Issei's eons of unwavering determination, an inferno that burned with a ferocity that would never be quenched or extinguished. The heat emanating from his gaze was palpable, causing the air around them to sizzle with an intense energy. Issei. I won't submit. As the angel lost its life, Issei merely dropped its deceased body upon the ground, and the brown-haired boy's actions angered the mountain. Odd. You mustn't defy peace, serve peace, submit, serve peace, submit. Issei simply flipped the mountain off. This caused the female angel to gasp in shock as God became even more annoyed, while Drake on the other hand was laughing his ass off. Odd. You shall learn to submit to peace. At that moment, everything was filled with immense light and color as Issei was hit by a wave of energy. The floor beneath the boy transformed into a tunnel leading to somewhere, but before he could move out of the way, Issei was hit by another wave of energy and was knocked back into the hole. Female angel. Issei. Odd. Sumbit to Pioxie. Issei. Buck you, God. And with that, Issei was casted out of heaven and lost his one chance to return back to those he loved. If only he listened to God, if only he submitted, then he would have been able to go back. But, why would he do that? Why submit to some bastard who wants to force his opinions upon the boy who didn't care about any religious crap? All Issei wants is simple, to go home and nothing more or less. But now he was falling yet again. He fell. And fell. And fell. And fell. And fell. And fell. And fell. However, his tumble back down to hell was soon interrupted as he saw something. He quickly sprouted his wings and landed on the ground safely. He was gonna fly back up, but the hole was already gone when he looked. This caused the boy to grit his teeth in annoyance. Issei. Damn it. He sighed as he began to check his surroundings and saw that he was standing in some frozen lifeless land. This confused him because he has already been in one. The only difference between them was that this one had no ship stuck in the ice. Issei. Well, this is certainly weird, it's not the same place. Greg. Seems like it, partner. Be careful, who knows what's lurking around the corner. Issei nodded his head in understanding, the Welsh dragon was right. The brown-haired boy has faced so many demons already, who knows what could be next. For all Issei knew, he may have to fight the big man in charge of all of hell. Unfortunately, Issei just jinxed himself as he soon heard a laugh echo throughout the frozen land, a laugh filled with malicious intent. Ahahahaha. This caused Issei to narrow his eyes. Issei. Is that him? Greg. Definitely, I know that laugh anywhere. Issei snorted as he had hoped it wouldn't come to it, but looks like he has to face off with the devil, Lucifer. Lucifer? Welcome to hell, welcome to hell. Issei took a fighting stance, ready to face whatever the devil threw at him. His eyes darted around the area, searching for his opponent, but it seemed that the devil didn't want to show his face. However, in the corner of his eyes, he saw millions upon millions of demons hiding in the shadows. Each so different than the last, all waiting patiently for their master's command. Issei. Drake. Don't ask me, partner, even I don't know. Just then, Issei noticed a humanoid figure ahead of him which had to be Lucifer. The Red Dragon Emperor turned to face his opponent, but when he laid eyes upon Lucifer, Issei froze in place. His heart began to beat very quickly as his eyes started to freak out behind the helmet. The reason for this was because of the form that Lucifer chose. An attractive young woman with violet eyes and a curvaceous, slender body. She had long, silky black hair that reached down to her hips and possessed 2 black feathered wings. Issei couldn't believe it, Lucifer chose the form of his ex-girlfriend Rainer. Issei. And no, this can't be possible. How is it possible? Greg. It isn't, you need to calm down and focus. Issei panted heavily as the memories of his date with Rainer, the betrayal, and his death. It was almost suffocating for the boy, the past still haunting him to this very day. But he can't falter, he needs to be strong. Lucifer. Consume his heart enter his throat. Hearing that made Issei wanna gag, cause why the buck did Lucifer have to say that? Lucifer. Welcome to hell consume his heart enter his throat. The demons charged toward Issei who began to fight them off as best he could, he punched, kicked, whipped, and blasted many of them. However, they just seemed to keep coming and coming. This wasn't good, very not good for Issei cause he may have been fighting for eons, but eventually he will run out of steam. The demons will eventually overrun him and it will be his demise unless he does something here and now to wipe them all out. Issei. Dreg, I need to take these things out and fast. Dreg. I know I'm thinking. Issei. Isn't there some kind of other forms I haven't used yet? Issei received silence as he continued to fend off the endless amount of demons advancing upon him. Issei. Dreg. Silence once again. Issei. Dreg. Okay, fine there is another form. But it's very dangerous, you could lose your life. The Red Dragon Emperor created a dragon shot and fired it at the horde of demons, destroying many of them. But this was pointless as the demons seemed to be endless in numbers, they just kept coming. It was like the demons were trying to exhaust the brown-haired boy. Issei. Dreg, I don't care if this form is dangerous. I've basically been your partner for eons now. I can handle it. The Welsh dragon went quiet as he thought about it, there was no other way. Dreg knew that Issei was running out of options, plus sooner or later he may get exhausted. They had to finish off the demons, here and now. Dreg let out a small sigh. Dreg. Okay, partner. Let's do this together. Underneath the helmet, Issei just smirked at the Welsh dragon's words. Issei. Hell yeah. As the demons relentlessly closed in on Issei, he stopped attacking them, seemingly resigned to his fate. Lucifer, the ruler of hell, watched with delight as the swarm of creatures engulfed the young warrior, their fangs and claws tearing into his armor. But just as Lucifer was about to claim his victory, he noticed something that caught his attention. Before he could react, there was a sudden flash of brilliant green light, followed by a deafening explosion that ripped through the swarm and decimated multiple demons in its wake. Lucifer's expression twisted from delight to shock as he watched in horror as Issei emerged from the carnage, his armor now covered in the blood of his enemies. As if summoned by the force of Issei's power, several small orbs appeared around his body, each pulsing with a fierce energy that seemed to emanate from the young warrior himself. Sweat began to run down Lucifer's face, he thought that this was gonna be a piece of cake. He knew his father failed to get the boy on his side by making him submit to peace, so Lucifer thought he could just corrupt him, since if you take away Dreg then Issei was nothing more than a human with no powers. Though how wrong he was, Issei was more than just a mere human, he was a fighter. The warrior. The king. The dragon. He was an emperor. As the demons looked on, they were puzzled and a bit uneasy as they sensed a menacing energy emanating from the brown-haired boy. Suddenly, he began to chant and as he did, Issei underwent a dramatic transformation. I, who am about to awaken, am the heavenly dragon who has stolen the principles of domination from God. I laugh at the infinite and I grieve at the dream. I shall become the red dragon of domination. I shall sink you to the depths of the crimson purgatory. Juggernaut drive. By the end of the chant, Issei had completely transformed. The demons' eyes widened as they saw that the brown-haired boy had just transformed into a massive blood-red dragon with large wings, claws, teeth, and a long tail. Issei unleashed a mighty roar which sent a shockwave throughout the frozen landscape and made everything begin to shake. He then looked down at the demon horde and snarled at them like a savage beast. The demons were intimidated by the beast in front of them at first, like how could they not be since a moment ago he was just a regular man and now he was a towering monster with raging eyes. However, looking at back their master Lucifer would definitely make them suffer if they didn't attack, so they got over their fear charge toward the dragon. Which was their biggest mistake. Issei swung his massive claw and decimated multiple demons before he turned and then bite down on some more, causing blood and limbs to fall everywhere. The Red Dragon Emperor soon unleashed a powerful crimson red beam toward another group of demons, completely vaporizing them into nothing. However, before Issei could do any more damage, a giant hand of ice appeared from the ground and grabbed onto him, holding him in place. This could only be the work of the devil himself, Issei growled in anger as he glared at Lucifer who just smirked at his prey. Two ice tendrils appeared to form the ground and went to his face, forcing Issei to open his jaw wide. Lucifer. Consume his heart enter his throat. As Issei struggled to break free from the ice hand, multiple demons took this chance to sprout their wings and take off eye to thr sky before flying down into his mouth. This angered and grossed out the Red Dragon Emperor, why the hell did they have to go down his mouth? Issei doesn't know where they have been so that's just gross, very gross. However, something soon happened which didn't really surprise Issei. A loud boom was heard from above as both Lucifer and Issei saw angels fly down from the ceiling. Was God helping the brown-haired boy out? Why would he do that after he flipped him off? As the angels entered the dark cave, a few began their battle with the forces of hell who began fighting back. Issei noticed the female angel from earlier, killing demon after demon with very impressive skills. A few of the other angels made their way toward Issei, the boy hoping that they will free him, but that wasn't the case as they soon traveled down to Issei and entered his mouth as well. Issei. Oh come on, he was really getting annoyed by this whole going down his throat kink of theirs. Issei wasn't into vor like God nor Lucifer. God. Serve us, submit to us, join our army. Lucifer. Enter the throat, become one with hell. Both heaven and hell, equally as biased and insane. Both trying to force Issei to accept their belief as the only true one. The lines between good and evil are as cloudly as ever. Issei doesn't give a buck what their problem with each other is, he wants nothing to do with it. All the brown-haired boy wants to do is return home, so Issei believes it's time to teach them a lesson. Issei. Dreg, let's end this. Dreg simply laughed at this idea. Dreg. I agree, time to put these children in time out. In one swift motion, Issei not only managed to free himself, but also snap his jaw shut on the foolish demons and angels that were in his mouth. The Red Dragon Emperor chewed on their flesh and bones, feeling empowered by their energy. He let out a mighty roar as a strange aura covered his massive body. He wasn't sure what to make of it, but he knew that hell used it to its last drop. The female angel stared at Issei as she had an expression of shock and awe. He was empowered by both heaven and hell. Never in her life has she seen such a feat. Both holy and demonic energies should be tearing him apart, but he doesn't look fazed whatsoever. Female angel. Whoa. Issei turned and looked at the army of demons. He opened his mouth and fired a massive beam at them. This attack decimated the demons, wiping out nearly all of them in one strike. Lucifer began to back away as he stared at Issei with a look of horror. There was no way that he could fight him in his current form. He needed to retreat. He needed to grow. He needed to wait. And so, that is what Lucifer did, much to his annoyance. He spread his wings and took off in a random direction, though Issei noticed and silently growled to himself. Issei. I'll kill you later, Lucifer. God. Now that we have aided you in your victory, you shall serve us in our battle against hell. When Issei heard that, he slowly turned his head and looked at the portal that showed the enormous mountain. Those words echoed in his mind as they began to fill Issei with rage. Battle against hell, you say? They were planning on killing the people of hell. That would mean Rias, Bekeno, Hineko, Fiba, Asia, Sona, their peerage. God. Submit, serve peace, submit, serve peace. This only angered Issei even more than he already was. Submit. He was no one's pet. How dare God think that he will help him in killing his friends? Breg could feel Issei's anger and to be honest, he agreed with the brown-haired boy. The Welsh dragon knew that God didn't like hell, but to kill those who have done nothing wrong, so much for being the place of holiness. The female angel heard Issei growling, and she didn't like it. She hoped that he wasn't planning what she thought he was planning, because that would be bad for all of creation. Female angel. Issei. Issei growled as his chest opened up. Boost, 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 boost. God. No, you must serve in my army of peace, you must. Issei. Buck no. Greg. Longinus smasher. Issei then fired a massive beam of energy mixed with both heaven and hell, straight through the portal that led to the Mountain of Eyes. God. Female angel. Knew. Both the portal and the Mountain of Eye, or rather God, died when they were struck by the Red Dragon Emperor's attack, which was the combined energy of both heaven and hell boosted by Drake's power. Nothing survived against that attack, not even an omnipotent being such as God would survive. Issei growled before he snorted, turning to the female angel who looked up at the boy. Female angel. Why did you? Issei. Simple, I bow to no one. As the angel opened her mouth to speak, a sudden disturbance in the air caught everyone's attention. The atmosphere became tense, and an uncomfortable feeling settled in the pit of their stomachs. The air grew thin, making it difficult to breathe, and beads of sweat began to trickle down their faces. Issei, sensing something was wrong, turned his head to where the portal had been moments before. To his surprise, he saw a glowing orb lying in its place. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly light, casting an eerie glow on everything around it. The orb seemed to pulse with energy, as if it was alive and waiting for something to happen. A sense of foreboding filled the air, as everyone wondered what would happen next. Chapter 7. Third person POV. Issei. What the hell is that? Issei stared at the glowing orb which floated where the portal once was. The sheer aura coming off it was distorting the air around it, and that was setting off red flags for Issei. The surface of the orb shimmered with an otherworldly light, casting an eerie glow on everything around it. The orb pulsed with energy, as if it was alive. Issei looked at the female angel standing next to him. A look of fear and terror was on her face. Whatever the orb was, she knew about it and was afraid of it. In fact, she wasn't the only one, cause the demons and other angels were frozen in place. They should be fighting each other, tearing one another limb from limb, but as soon as that orb appeared they stopped in their tracks. Maybe it was the work of Lucifer, or maybe God left behind something just in case things went wrong, which they obviously did for him. Issei. Dreg, mind telling me what the hell this thing is? Dreg. That, partner, is Trahexa. Issei's eyes widened as he looked back at the orb. It remained where it was, but he could feel something wrong, but he wasn't sure what. Either way, he couldn't believe it. The orb was Trahexa, the beast of the apocalypse that God was using most of his power to keep sealed away. Issei mentally facepalmed himself for his stupidity. He killed God and basically freed Trahexa from its seal. What a complete idiot he was, but then again it was God's fault since he can't make peace with his own son. Like, the brown-haired boy doesn't care about their war, but if they think about harming those like his friends then he was gonna raise hell upon them both. Issei. How could I be such an idiot? I basically freed this thing. He quickly turned to the female angel. Issei. Hey, is there any way to seal that thing up before it decides to take shape? The angel gulped and shook her head, her eyes full of terror. Female angel. And no, only the father could seal Trahexa. Issei. Well, what about Lucifer? Wasn't he around when that thing was sealed? Once again, the angel shook her head. Female angel. He won't help us, no one can stop Trahexa now. At that moment, the orb began to illuminate a bright light from itself, and Issei watched in horror as all who saw it, whether they be demon or angel, started to turn to stone. This shocked him because he didn't think that Trahexa would have an ability like that. Then again, he knows basically about the creature, except that it's on par with both God and Lucifer. He soon realized something as he immediately covered the female angel with his massive mass. He wasn't gonna let her suffer the same fate like the others. Issei didn't hate her, she didn't do anything wrong, unlike God. Issei. Stay behind me. Greg. Partner, we gotta destroy that orb now. Issei. Couldn't have said it better myself. He snarled like a dragon as his eyes began to glow green. Boost, 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 boost. With that, he quickly spun his long neck around and fired a crimson red beam toward the orb, striking it and causing a massive explosion to appear which cancelled the light, but also caused a tremor. The shaking ground knocked the angel off balance, as Issei held his ground firmly. Once the shaking began to settle down, the angel compassed herself and slowly stood up. She looked at the massive dust cloud that Issei made, placing a hand on the Red Dragon Emperor's leg. Female angel. Did you get it? Issei. I think so. The angel let out a sigh of relief, looking up at the armored red dragon with a small smile. Yes, what he did to the father was unforgivable and foolish, but she understood that not everyone wants to submit to the father's will. Before becoming an angel, she didn't want to either, but being one has allowed her to help so many people not fall to the darkness of the underworld. Maybe she can still help Issei, maybe she can be his light out of the darkness. Female angel. Issei, you said you want to return home, right? Issei nodded his head. Female angel. I can help you. This gained Issei's attention as he looked down at the angel, his eyes slowly being filled with hope and slightly happiness. Was this it? Was he actually gonna go back home? Issei. Really, can you do that? The female angel let out a giggle of amusement. She had to say that Issei was a little cute. Female angel. Yep, I can bring you home. Issei. Thank you, thank you, thank you, I can't thank you enough. The angel merely smiled, a little hiccup on her part since she never really bothered to tell the brown-haired boy her name. Female angel. Well, Issei, my name is Elizabeth. Issei. Elizabeth, that's a nice name, it's a pleasure to meet you, Eliz. Before Issei could finish his sentence, a horrifying sight unfolded before him. In an instant, blood splattered across his face, causing his eyes to widen in shock. His gaze shifted to Elizabeth, whose pupils shrank in agony as a spike impaled her, piercing through her back and chest. Time seemed to slow down as Issei helplessly witnessed the tragic scene, the female angel's legs giving way as she collapsed to the ground, her lifeblood gushing from the wound like an unstoppable river. Issei. Issei's eyes went dark for a moment before they came back, now pulsing with a burning green energy. Issei. Elizabeth. As Issei's gaze shifted, a surge of intense hatred burned within his eyes. The perpetrator of this heinous act revealed itself none other than Trahexa, the malevolent force that Issei had sought to vanquish. Regrettably, Issei's previous attempt had only granted the beast a physical form, failing to destroy the ominous orb that housed its power. Trahexa's monstrous appearance was a grotesque fusion of various animals, exhibiting traits of a lion, leopard, bear, dragon, and more. It possessed 7 necks, each crowned with a head adorned with 10 horns, alongside 7 long thick tails of diverse shapes. Its formidable frame boasted 4 robust arms and 2 legs, even more massive than its appendages. The creature's dark fur-covered body leaned forward like a primate, its surface seemingly adorned with a combination of scales and fur. However, Issei didn't care about Trahexa's appearance. Yeah, he could care less about what it looked like. It took away 2 things from him, and that was unforgivable. It took away his once chance. One chance for him to return home to his mother, father, his friends, to Rias. It also took away Elizabeth from him. He may have not known her for long or knew anything about her past, but that didn't matter. She was kind, friendly, she offered to help the boy when not even God did, and this was how the world repays him. After everything that Issei has had to endure, all the fights he had to suffer through, he has had enough. Issei. You. Issei growled at Trahixa, who snarled back at the boy. The ground began to shake and rumble as his armor began to glow crimson red, giving off the same immense heat it did when he fought the demon freed in the previous ice pocket of hell. Trahixa roared at Issei, who let out one of his own. The only difference between the two is that Issei's was filled with rage. The two titan-like soon began to charge toward one another, Issei going full on sprint as his claws were tearing up the icy ground beneath him. Trahixa had the slight advantage due to his multiple limbs, but that didn't matter because both beings soon clashed against one another and caused a shockwave so powerful that all form of noise went dead for a couple of seconds. Drake was a little worried about Issei, mainly cause this was Trahixa they were fighting and it was many times more powerful than any demon they have faced. But he could feel the boy's rage, his fury, his unyielding determination. He wanted retribution for what the beast of the apocalypse did to Elizabeth, and Drake was in the same boat. The dragon won't admit it, but he was quite fond of the angel like Issei was mainly cause unlike most angels who either fear or dislike the Welsh dragon for being well a dragon. Elizabeth was different, not once did she say a bad thing about Drake or his race. Sure, maybe that was due to the fact that Issei flipped off her boss. But even if that was the case, most angels, even new ones, would know about God's hatred for both snakes and dragons. Drake wasn't gonna let that kindness go in vain. He and Issei will get revenge for her. Saving her may not be an option, but they will not let her kindness go to waste. Drake. Partner, let's make this son of a bitch pay. Tear it limb from limb. Issei's eyes flashed green as he roared, overpowering the bigger Trahixa and forcing it back a few feet. The beast growled at Issei, who reared a fist back and socked it in one of its many heads, followed up by a tail whack to the chest which sent it flying back. Boost, 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 boost. Issei unleashed a powerful crimson red beam at Trahixa, causing an explosion which blew apart at least half of the monster's body. The beast roared in pain and agony as it began regenerating its missing part, but it was only blown off by Issei's beam yet again. It was supposed to have a regeneration ability far beyond that of any living creature. It's supposed to be healing even if it was being damaged, but for some reason it was slow. Issei soon stopped firing, which gave Trahixa the chance to recover from the damage. After healing, it stood up and let out a roar at the Red Dragon Emperor. Suddenly, with a speed unusual for his massive form, Issei slammed into Trahixa and crushed it into the nearby ice wall. He then dragged the beast of the apocalypse across the concrete wall before hurling him across the battlefield and smashed through several statues of angels and demons. Issei roared as he charged toward Trahixa, kicking the monster straight through a giant ice pillar and onto the other side before quickly chasing after his target. Trahixa growled as unleashed a stream of fire toward Issei, who only ran through the flames without a single care in the world. He then sucker punched Trahixa into the air. Trahixa roared in a mixture of confusion and rage as he came crashing down upon the icy ground, making a massive crater from the impact. Issei growled as he began to slowly approach Trahixa, his eyes still full of burning rage. Boost, 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 boost. Issei's power grew and so did the heat coming off his body. Trahixa's head looked at the Red Dragon Emperor and unleashed streams of fire towards him, which didn't harm him at all. The boy merely growled as red electricity started to cover his form, confusing Trahixa for a brief moment before Issei unleashed a powerful pulse-like attack the size of a nuclear bomb. The attack engulfed Trahixa, who roared in agony as several of its heads, tails, and half its body was incinerated in the attack. It tried to regenerate quickly, but its body was refusing to listen to it, and it wasn't sure why. Why? Why was its body not listening? What was happening to it? God was no longer alive, so it had nothing to be afraid of. It should be destroying this body in battle, and yet he was overpowering the beast of the apocalypse like it was nothing but a useless rag. Issei glared at Trahixa, who stared back at the boy. He soon unleashed a powerful roar-like attack at Trahixa, which sent it flying back further until it crashed into the next wall. The chimera roared in agony as it felt all its bones shatter from both the roar and the impact of the wall. The beast started regenerating quickly, but it knew that it needed to come up with a plan, or else it won't be able to defeat Issei. Issei roared loudly as it glared at Trahixa, who slowly began to stand up, snarling at its opponent. Inside its body, the core of Trahixa began to glow brightly as Issei watched as the monster's body started to undergo some kind of transformation. Its mass shifted as the sound of bones, flesh, and other parts ripping and breaking filled the area. The sight was repulsive, but Issei didn't care about that as he fired another crimson-red beam at the monster, causing an explosion. Smoke and ash filled the area as Issei growled. Trahixa wasn't dead and he knew that. He waited, and waited until he saw something within the smoke. Before long, out came a humanoid-like figure around his height with bone-like armor, sharp claws, teeth, and horns with an ugly face with 666 on it. He was Trihixa's newest form, one that it knows will defeat Issei with. The beast of the apocalypse roared at Issei, who raised a claw and placed it on the ice pillar next to him. Trihixa soon watched as Issei began to rip the pillar out of the ground with a single claw before hurling it directly at the chimera. Both the pillar and Trihixa went crashing through several layers of ice walls, some more thicker than the previous ones, before coming to a stop to form a large pile of debris. Issei growled as he began to approach the pool of debris. Trihixa slowly rose up from the ice as its wounds began healing quickly and growled at Issei. The position it was in was both good and bad. The good reason is because now it won't have to worry about the immense heat coming off Issei's body, which apparently can slow down its healing abilities. The bad part about it was that Issei could still attack it, the boy could still fire his beams at him, and those things hurt like a semi-truck. However, that was a risk that Trihixa was willing to take in order to beat this opponent. It clenched one of its hands into a fist before punching the ground, causing several bone-like spikes to erupt from the ground and head toward Issei. When the spikes arrived at him, they tried to pierce the boy's armor, but they didn't even leave a dent on the plating, and the heat coming off the Red Dragon Emperor was turning the spikes into ash. Issei slowly looked up at Trihixa, his eyes gazing into the soul of the beast of the apocalypse, as he let out a small and yet very disturbing chuckle. Issei, is that the best you can do? He titled his head, his eyes giving off a sinister green aura. Issei. Cause I didn't feel a thing. This angered Trihixa. There was no possible way that this was happening right now. There was no way that Trihixa the beast of the apocalypse was being told that its attacks were weak. It won't allow such words to go unpunished, it will make Issei suffer for his words, and it doesn't care what it has to do that. Trihixa growled as it reached for the spikes on its back and broke them off. This confused Issei as he watched Trihixa throw the spikes toward and proceeded to roar, which caused the spikes to change shape. They morphed into smaller winged versions of Trihixa which squawked when they came into the world, flapping their wings as they charged at Issei, who snarled at the approaching enemy. He went to swipe at one, but these smaller ones proved to be faster than the main one as it dodged his attack. He opened his mouth and fired a beam, but they dodged yet again and made Issei's attack struck the roof. This was slowly starting to piss Issei off as he tried to attack the winged annoyances with his claws, tail, teeth, and even more beams, but each one has proven to be no help. Trihixa smirked as it roared, giving the smaller ones a command as they all began to pounce on Issei's back and began to claw at his armor with their claws. Issei growled as he tried to shake them off as best he can, but for some reason they won't get off, and they seem to not care about the heat he's giving off, which was a red flag altogether. Why weren't they turning into ash? They should have died the moment they latched onto his back. Were they regenerating that fast that his heat wasn't enough? Were they adapting? Issei wasn't sure, but he was getting very pissed off with the constant pecking on his back. He growled as his eyes flashed red, and in an instant, Issei unleashed an attack which looked like several beams coming out of his back. They sent the smaller ones flying off. Both Issei and Trihixa were surprised by this. The brown-haired boy didn't know that he could unleash beams from his back. What the hell was he, Shin Godzilla or something? What's next, firing one from his tail too? Actually, now that Issei thought about it, that would be a good thing to have if he was in a situation like that ever again. So he made a mental note to ask Drake about it. He was sure that the Welsh dragon could cook up something for him. Trihixa growled at Issei, who looked at the monster. He watched as its chest began to open to reveal the orb. It glowed purple, which seemed to do something to the smaller ones because they were starting to roar out in pain, gaining Issei's attention as he watched as several orbs were ripped out of their bodies. He watched as the orbs flew toward Trihixa, who started to fly into the air. 3 went to the left of the monster, while the other 3 went to the right and seemingly connected to each other, forming a pattern. Issei growled as he felt Trihixa's power increase. Watch orb glowing brightly as the wind around the body was seemingly being pulled toward the beast of the apocalypse, like a black hole making a gravitational pull. This must be Trihixa's final attack, the attack that it believes will be the end of him. Issei roared as the gems on his body started to glow green, followed by his eyes as both he and Trihixa unleashed their attacks upon one another. Issei fired a crimson-red beam from his mouth, while Trihixa unleashed a powerful purple beam from the orb in its chest, the 2 attacks clashing against one another and causing one side of the icy realm to be illuminated by a crimson-red hue and the other a purple color. Trihixa's beam appeared to be having the upper hand against Issei, slowly pushing the boy's crimson-red beam back to the point that he was nearly struck by the beast of the apocalypse attack. This was it, this was the moment that Trihixa knew would come. The moment that it kills the Red Dragon Emperor and leaves hell to spread chaos throughout the universe. It could already see the chaos and destruction it will cause. No one will be able to stop it, no matter what they were. Human, devil, angel, fallen, yokai, dragon, god, dragon god. Nothing shall stop Trihixa from spread absolute carnage throughout the universe, bringing everything and everyone to ruin. However, it soon noticed something which confused it, and much to Trihika's surprise, it saw that Issei's beam was starting to overpower its own and slowly pushed back. What was happening? Why was this happening? How was this mortal so powerful? Trihika tried to put more power into its attack, but it didn't even matter because before long Issei's attack had fully engulfed the beast of the apocalypse and completely erased its whole physical body. The only thing that remained of Trihika was its core, which fell onto the ground, bouncing a few times before it settled and rolled up to Issei. He growled at the orb as he proceeded to stomp on the orb, crushing it into millions of pieces and making a purple smoke which he accidentally inhaled. However, the smoke didn't really do anything to Issei, which made him snort as he turned and walked away from the crushed remains of Trihika's orb. His loud footsteps were like thunder in a lightning storm, each louder than the previous one, as he approached the body of Elizabeth, who remained where she was. The angel's blood continued to leak out like a rive, moving to Issei's feet as the brown-haired boy stared down at her corpse. Issei. Elizabeth. He slowly lowered his head to her body and nuzzled her gently, moving her head ever so slightly as he gritted his teeth. At this point he didn't care about going home anymore. He can't care about something pointless when Elizabeth lost her own life for his pointless goal. Why? Why did she have to die because of him? She didn't deserve it. She didn't. Why? Why was he so weak? Why couldn't he protect her? She was his friend. Why? Issei. I'm sorry. But that, Issei slowly raised up as he let out a thunderous roar which filled the whole icy landscape. It was on this day that Issei Hyoudou, the Red Dragon Emperor, had lost a dear friend. Just another day in hell. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.